Hey everyone, I'm Mike Del Preti, and you're listening to Context, the podcast where I'm now traveling globally talking to industry leaders in the real estate tech space about what's happening in the industry. I'm here in lovely Munich with Lukas Rose, CEO and co-founder of ProperBird. Hey Lucas.
Hi there. Hi, Mike. Thanks a lot for having me.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure, and I really appreciate getting able to spend some time together. So as I'm traveling around here, I'll start with an easy question. How do you typically start your morning here?
Well, that's a very good question. So I'm really into sports. So a couple of days in the week, I actually start with a sports session in the morning, and then I head over to the office. I just live a couple of minutes away by foot, so I can walk here super conveniently, have a cup of coffee, start the morning pretty chill, reading my emails, reading the news, and then yeah, we have a daily like every morning around 9 a.m. and then we get the day started.
That's great. So what kind of coffee drinker are you?
Actually, like I'm pretty flexible there. It's probably yeah, a bit unusual, but sometimes I drink an Americano, sometimes espresso, sometimes cappuccino. Like it really depends on my mood.
Variety.
Variety it is.
Variety is key. Okay, so give us the quick pitch for ProperBird, just so we can kind of set the context of who you are and what you're doing.
Yeah, for sure. So with ProperBird, we are providing sales and market intelligence to real estate portals around the world. So what we're doing is we are collecting, normalizing, and deduplicating listings and agent information of the leading real estate portals in around like 20 markets right now. And with this information, portals can identify agents they're not working with yet that they can hunt, and also agents where they can make more money with because they, for example, have more listings on their competitor sites than they have on their own sites. And yeah, we are delivering this intelligence work so the portals can improve their sales.
So there's a key difference there. So if you're listening to this and you're in the US market, this is going to sound totally foreign because this is just not how the US market works. So in the US, we have the MLSs, and that is like the de facto repository of all listings, which is actually, coming under question and under challenge right now, which is why this is so interesting. But the MLS is there. So basically, if a listing is publicly advertised anywhere, it's advertised everywhere all at once. But what you're talking about in Europe is how you operate in dynamics where that's not true. So there is no MLS here in Germany or in any European countries for that matter. So if a listing is on one portal, it could just be on that one portal, or an agent could pay to have it listed on two portals or three portals, or it could exist on one portal for a week, and then if it doesn't sell, it could go on another portal. I mean, there's a whole bunch of permutations there. So suddenly the reason for your business's existence is really clear and necessary because there is no one repository of all information. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Pretty well put.
And the same then is true for agents, right? Because there's a lot of agents. How many agents are in Germany,
Like
approximately?
it depends on the definition, but somewhere between 50 and 80,000.
50
Yeah,
and
yeah,
80,000? They choose where to advertise
yeah,
their listings.
yeah,
It could be on one portal, two portals,
yeah.
three portals. Talk about the market. I know you're working in a lot of markets, but let's just choose Germany because that's where we are right now. I mean, talk a little bit about the real estate portal dynamic here in
hmm
Germany.
hmm So I'd say that generally there's three relevant portals here. It's ImmoScout, which is pretty clearly the market leader in the country, both in terms of number of listings as well as in terms of number of agents that chose to work with the portal. And then there's two other portals, which is Immowelt and Kleinanzeigen, which was formerly called eBay. And now it has this weird German name, but it is what it is. And they're actually competing head to head about the second position. A couple years back, it was pretty clear that Immowelt was the number two, but now Kleinanzeigen is growing pretty aggressively in the real estate space.
So if we just pause there for a second, how has that competitive situation changed over the years?
So in my interpretation, what was happening is that ImmoScout was, in their perspective, getting ever more successful and trying to generate more revenue within the market, and that was not always to the delight of the agents. And I think like Kleinanzeigen or eBay was pretty smart about it. And they used the momentum in the market pretty well because a couple of agents were a bit upset about what ImmoScout was doing. And
In terms of raising prices.
yeah, that's one of the reasons, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Kleinanzeigen was there, which is kind of like a cheaper solution to the market. So like listing there is a lot cheaper than the other portals, mainly because it's a horizontal. Also, the user experience on Kleinanzeigen is a lot different than what we see on ImmoScout and Immowelt. And yeah, they're growing pretty quickly. I think also like another thing to point out here is that Kleinanzeigen, they're market leaders when it comes to FSBO listings by far. So they have, I would guess, probably like 4 times as much FSBO listings than you see on the other portals. So they're pretty strong there.
And for anybody who doesn't know, FSBO is for sale by owner.
Yeah.
And there's a good amount of for sale by owner listings in Germany.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you know what % of the market?
I can tell you roughly by portal. I think on Kleinanzeigen, it's almost a third of the listings that are private listings.
Wow. And they make
So
a lot
that's
more money off those private listings, don't they?
I'm actually not sure for Kleinanzeigen. They definitely make more money with professional listings.
Okay.
The agents have deeper wallets
Okay.
than private people.
So, I mean, that's interesting. I mean, a third of listings, you know, in the US, it's about 10% of listings are for sale by owner. So again, in the interest of kind of blowing up your brain and getting exposed to new things, you know, FSBO, it's not just a 1 or 2 market thing. Every market has that.
Yeah.
And they're at much different rates.
Yeah. But that was like, just to be clear, that was only the ratio of FSBO listings on Kleinanzeigen. On the other portals, it's a lot less. So I would guess that maybe from a total property perspective, it's probably somewhere between 10 and 20% of FSBO listings across all the different portals.
Yeah, that's impressive. I mean, it's a big number. So talk a little bit about exclusive listings and exclusive content. When I say that and you start thinking about your business, what comes up?
Yeah, you put it pretty well. There's a big difference from the way the American market works versus the markets in other countries. And I would say that the US market is like globally put rather an exception than the rule because of the existence of the MLSs. So there is no repository of listings and there's no repository of agents, as you put. And essentially that is why every single portal is doing their best to get the most agents and therefore the most listings on their portal. And here, the role of exclusive listings, I think we have seen exclusive listings for quite some time here, basically since forever, because every portal has to work for every single agent, has to work for every single listing in terms of sales effort. And therefore, every agent that's, say, like I'm portal number 1 and I'm talking to an agent that no one else is talking to, this is by logical sense, this is an exclusive listing because no one else is actually having any commercial agreement with this agent. So having exclusive listings is something that maybe also from another perspective that is rather not a temporary thing, but it's really up to the agents whether the listing is exclusive. So because the agent does a deliberate choice where to upload the listing, and probably agents have like a platform of preference where they always put their listings, but they maybe never put it anywhere else. So this listing, and given that Germany as well is it's a market with exclusive mandates. So a property is usually only marketed by one agent at a time. So if I'm like the office that I'm in, like if I'm leasing out this office as an agent and I only put it on Immowelt, you probably will only see it on Immowelt for the entire lifespan of this listing.
Do you have a sense as to what % of inventory on the portals are exclusive?
Not for every portal, but I know it for Immowelt, for example. There it's roughly a fifth. So every fifth listing is exclusive on Immowelt, roughly.
Interesting. Every fifth in terms of the listings they're displaying.
Yeah.
So if I do a search on Immowelt and I look at the search results, 1 in 5 is only going to be there.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And then how do the portals in turn talk about that or advertise that fact?
Yeah. In my opinion, they actually don't advertise it enough because like every portal is competing about the seekers, right? Like you got to build substantial inventory to be interesting for the seekers. And the more relevant inventory you have, the more seekers you'll find. And having exclusive inventory is definitely relevant because as a seeker, like there's always fear of missing out. I want to find the right property for me. So if I, as a portal, knew about my percentage of exclusive listings, I would definitely advertise about it. But as a matter of fact, we actually did this in the past with the second biggest portal with Immowelt, like with our intelligence platform where we are deduplicating listings. So we're comparing whether a listing is uploaded on several platforms simultaneously. We were able to, or we still are able to flag these exclusive listings, and it was integrated live into their product. So in the search overview page, there was a small diamond to the listings, like was attached to the listings where it says, this is a secret tip, you only find it here, which yeah, was quite a useful feature.
Mm. So congratulations. That was a really good pivot for you talking about your company and how awesome it is and what it's doing. Which is totally fair. And like, to be honest, I wouldn't be here if I didn't think your company was doing some really good stuff in this space. So that's important to note. So, I mean, if you take a step back and you think about exclusive inventory, the way it works, again, just in the US market and the German market, well, every other market, as you said, the US is the exception to the rule. Do you think one model works better? Obviously, the European model works better for your business.
Yeah.
If you had MLSs here, it wouldn't be a thing. There wouldn't be an opportunity to do that. But would you rather just kind of not have to worry about checking multiple sites to see all the listings, or do you think it's fine and it actually encourages more competition and innovation?
No, very good question. I think in terms of competition, the model that we're having in Europe is probably better, just because it forces portals to spend effort to get all the listings. But probably as a seeker, yeah, I would rather appreciate if there was a single source of truth, like one repository of all the properties that are currently being uploaded. And I mean, that's the quest every portal is on, right? Like every portal tries to get all the listings onto their site. So yeah, probably from a seeker's perspective, that's preferable.
And so interesting, over breakfast, you were telling me that, you were looking for a new rental recently, and you paid extra money to get access to rentals a week before they hit. So I'm sure that'll surprise some people. Tell us about that.
Yeah. That's something pretty unique to the German market. And if I'm not mistaken, this feature was introduced by the market leader ImmoScout. And if I'm not mistaken, ImmoScout was the first portal globally to start with monetizing the seekers. And the way this works is, like, for reference here, Munich is a very competitive housing market. And especially in the rentals, like, it's so overloaded that if I was a landlord uploading my apartment for rent, I'd probably get, like, without exaggeration, probably like 1,000 applicants in like the first 2 or 3 hours.
Wow.
Like, actually what we see, just as a side note, like, we were for a period in time, or we still are actually, like, sometimes collecting data not only daily, but like continuously, kind of like in real time. And we see that there, in this super competitive areas, there's actually rental listings that appear and disappear intraday. Like, they're uploaded at like 10 a.m. and they're taken down at like 1 p.m. just because there were sufficient applicants. But that's just a side note. And what happens there is, like, ImmoScout took advantage of so many people seeking for a property, especially for rent, in these competitive markets like Munich, Berlin, Hamburg, where there is now a feature that shows listings to seekers, like, for the first 7 days, only if they spend, I think it was 10 euros a month that I had to pay as a seeker for 6 months to get access to this, to a subset of the listings within the first 7 days of their upload period. That's quite interesting because, like, from a portal perspective, also, like, in a global comparison, basically no portal dares to monetize the seekers, while ImmoScout started to. And I find it quite interesting because if I change perspective and, like, if I put myself into my real estate seekers' shoes, it's a no-brainer for me that I'm going to pay for it, especially here in Munich. Like, they're the market leaders. I find the most properties on ImmoScout. And if I want to have any chance to finding a property, then I either know someone who's by any chance moving out and wants to give me the apartment, or I pay for this Meter Plus thing.
And Meter Plus translates roughly to Seeker Plus?
Yeah, Tenant Plus.
Tenant Plus. And ImmoScout also has a version of that for searching for homes for sale.
Yeah.
As well. I forget what it's called.
Käufer Plus.
And I looked into this maybe last year and did a research report. So if you're listening and you want to look for it, good luck. Go to my website, try to find it. But it's interesting because it's the one part of the business, revenue-wise, that's growing substantially. That's really interesting. And it's a fun intellectual exercise to think about that in other markets.
Yeah.
Could a leading real estate portal, oh, now we have all this exclusive inventory. Why don't we charge seekers, whatever, $10? And what does that get you?
It gets you access to, like, a subset of listings that are only available to Meter Plus clients within the first 7 days of their upload period.
Yeah, wow, makes sense. And like you said, it's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer.
$10 a month, and you have to do a 6-month subscription.
Yeah.
I mean, €60 versus whatever.
And there's so many seekers, right?
Yeah.
I think it's actually a pretty great exercise to think about this in other countries. But I think it's a precondition that you have a super competitive housing market, because otherwise there's just like, yeah, there's so much choice of properties you can apply for that there's no real pressure for you to pay.
Yeah, it's interesting thinking about how many limits are on the portals, right? If we talk about what's going to encourage competition and innovation, in the German market, all the ingredients are there to do that, right? You can't find the same listings on all the sites. So there is exclusive inventory. And then if you have exclusive inventory, the pessimistic way to look at what you just described is, oh, it's a big public company that's already making a lot of money, just making more money, squeezing more money out of customers. And you could say the same thing about Netflix or Hulu, all the video streaming services, and when they raise their price. Like, what are they really doing? They're just squeezing more money out of my wallet, right? But the other side is this idea of innovation. The framework is there, in Germany at least, to try new models. If I'm a leading portal, if I'm ImmoScout, can I come up with a product or service that I could sell seekers for €10 a month?
Yeah.
Well, what would that look like? What value is there, right? Nobody's holding a gun to your head and saying, all right, Lukas, you have to buy this. Give me more money. Give me more money. They're saying, here's this extra thing. If you want to do it, do it. It reminds me of, flying, the difference between economy and economy plus. And yeah, like you're kind of incentivized to keep moving up the chain because yes, you want to choose your seat and check your bags and all of that. But it is a choice at the end of the day.
And now that we're talking about it, actually, I just remembered it also gives me something else, which makes it a bit of a gamified experience if you're into numbers and into data, because it gives you some stats about this property. Like you see how many applicants they were. I think it also ranks your likelihood of getting this apartment in competition to all the others. I remember like when signing up there, I had to give some information. I don't remember exactly what, but it somehow uses this information to rank myself against all the other applicants. And then it says like, yeah, 25% likeliest to get the apartment, it's innovation, yeah. I mean, it's new information, right?
If I recall correctly, the flip side of this is if you're a landlord, the people who are paying get like a special badge on their message, and their messages appear higher up in their inbox. Yeah. Clever. And that's what I love, right? The innovator, the entrepreneur in me really loves that, this idea of like trying out new products to see if they can give an advantage or some added value across it. Interesting. So you've been in the space how long now? 5 or 6 years?
Roughly 5 years, yeah.
Interesting. And what's something you know about the real estate industry now that you wish you knew when you started?
I'd probably say that there are far more stakeholders in this industry than I ever thought there would be. There's so many different stakeholders with different interests and also with different innovation speeds. And I think this is like the main thing that struck me, because like we're collecting lots of data and we're focusing on this platform intelligence part. But before really nailing down on this, we also sold data to other stakeholders in the industry. And the speed of adoption of new technology is definitely different when we're talking to agents as opposed to we're talking to real estate portals, for example, who are just by the way they were actually born, their digital companies. While an agent, especially here, like there's no real licensing that you need to have to actually become an agent. So everyone can, like there's one thing you need to file at the government, but that's like really a no-brainer. People can become an agent.
Why is technology adoption for agents so slow?
Probably because they don't need to. Like it just works. I remember I was once talking to an agent, it's pretty anecdotal, but I was once talking to an agent who was telling me, you know what, Lukas, I don't need all this technology because my 3 best lead sources are my dog, because I'm walking around my suburb and when I get to know people. It's my kids' school because I meet people, and the firefighters brigade where I'm also engaged. And that's how I know pretty much everyone here in the suburb. And that's how I get the leads. I know way before anyone ever fills out a lead form in the internet that someone is thinking about moving out in 3 or 4 years.
I love that. I love that. It's so easy and tempting to just sit back in front of your computer and look at the data and come up with this product that agents need. Oh, agents need this, or we have all this data and we could give them this sorted list of people that are likely to buy or likely to sell. But yeah, I mean, you got to think of it really holistically for an agent's point of view. They're at the school, they're doing sport, they're in fire brigade, they're walking their dog. Like that's where your leads are. Leads are humans.
Yeah, leads are humans.
I love that. So correct me if I'm wrong, but the first iteration of your company was something along the lines of agent finder, right?
Yeah,
Being able to find the best agent. And
yeah,
I'm going to say, because you're not doing that anymore, let's just say that didn't work. Why didn't that work?
yeah. You're right. The first iteration was kind of like an objective agent comparison platform for real estate sellers to find the best agent. The context of this is that there is, as I said, no real quality requirements for becoming an agent. So there's big differences who you trust in probably the biggest transaction of your life. And that's what we wanted to optimize. And that's exactly what you said. Like we were kind of like, that's probably one of the reasons why it failed, because we were approaching this problem academically. We were thinking about, yeah, the market isn't working as optimal as it could be because there's players, there's intermediaries in the market who are probably less proficient than others. And that's kind of like from like a farther perspective why it didn't work, but more like actually what we found out after a while, after talking to sellers, is most of the sellers are not really data driven when they're making a decision of who to trust when selling their house. And I mean, just while I'm expressing this, I find it a bit ridiculous as well, because trust is hard to quantify, right? Like trust is something like it's about humans. That's what you just said. Like it's about humans getting in touch with each other, and you have to build trust. And it's hard to convey and build as much trust through a full comparison platform as opposed to someone you know in your suburb, or a recommendation from a friend who made a good experience in selling a house. So in a nutshell, I think the main reason why it didn't work is because the majority of the seekers, of the buyers, sellers are not, they're not approaching this rationally.
Again, we talked about this earlier, but so much of this is people deciding with their heart, not their head.
Yeah.
In all of real estate.
Yeah.
And that just seems to be this recurring theme, getting agents to adopt technology, getting home buyers to fall in love with a property, getting a home seller to choose which agent they want to work with. I mean, those are all emotional, very emotional decisions because it's real estate.
Yeah.
Like you said earlier, it's not, what was your example?
A pair of socks.
Yeah, it's not a pair of socks.
Yeah.
Or if you don't like them, you just toss them,
Yeah.
right? Or your feet are uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's not, your house where your kids live with all your money. It's such a different level of decision. And we spend so much time talking about technology, but at the end of the day, almost everything comes back to the psychology behind the process.
Yeah.
The market's been up and down quite a bit, and you're in, you said 20 different countries. What's been the biggest challenge you've had to overcome over the past year?
For us, fortunately, and also a bit surprising, that's also something I learned, the real estate portals, they're pretty resilient when it comes to the ups and downs of the market. I mean, if the turnover time on the market is actually growing, if it's increasing, if it's taking agents longer to sell a home, many of the portals actually just benefit from that, because they have another month and yet another month where someone's paying a subscription for the listing to be there. So we actually didn't really feel a big impact in the markets where there was maybe an economic downturn, but the portals were still going strong. And that's one part of it. And the other part is, I mean, we're globally diversified, and if one country is strong, another one might still be going pretty well. So we didn't really feel it, fortunately.
What's a bit of advice you would give to an entrepreneur who's thinking about launching something in this space?
Talk to your users.
Yeah. Do you think they don't?
They think they do. I also thought I do. Like when we were doing this agent comparison thing, as I said, like we were approaching it academically. Like we were sitting here in this very meeting room where we were recording the podcast. We were thinking about, wow, this is so inefficient. This needs to be optimized. Like someone needs to do something about it. And then we set out and we built a cool product. We spent weeks and months on iterating over the website that it looks cool. But I think like we could have really shortcut all this by just talking to a relevant amount of sellers. Like let's maybe pick like, I don't know, 200-300 and ask them, like sellers that are not selling with an agent, and maybe also sellers that are selling with an agent, ask them like, how do you choose your agent, or why didn't you choose to work with an agent? And I think that, like also talking out of experience, starting this company right after university, many entrepreneurs fall in love with the idea of being entrepreneurs and just doing something. And I feel it. It's exciting to do something. But at the end, you need to really solve a problem. And the quicker you get to actually understanding your customers and your users, the quicker you will have entrepreneurial success. And I thought I understood this before setting out to start this company, but I didn't. Very apparently I didn't. I think now, like with the knowledge I gained over the last years, I would probably shorten the time span that we started the first business, which was like 1.5 years, to probably maybe 1 or 2 months. Just because I would probably be more consequent with my own logical frame of how a company works and what users want. I would just probably be more strict with myself about validating or falsifying the most critical assumption about this business.
I think that's a really good point. You know, whether it's for all new ventures, whether it's a startup company or a new venture, a new product within inside a company, everybody gets caught in this trap of thinking, what's it going to take to succeed? What's it going to take to succeed? Are we going to win? Are we going to win? Is it working? But I think the opposite is actually most helpful to figure that out, which is how can we kill this?
Yep.
Like, how can we kill it and how can we move
Yep.
towards that point as fast as possible? Because then either you do kill it and you save a bunch of time and you can move on to the next thing, or you can't kill it and it survives,
Yep.
right? And then that means you actually have some real product market fit.
Yep.
If this company like closed down tomorrow and you were going to start a new company, would it be in the real estate space or have you had enough?
No, I think I would still stick to the real estate space. Yeah, I think there's so much development potential in this industry. There's so many things that will happen. Yeah, that's it.
Cool.
I think I would do it.
All right, we're at time. Any closing thoughts?
No, thanks a lot for having me.
Yeah. No,
really much appreciated.
This was great. I'm really enjoyed our chat, and I hope everybody listening gets it too. Lucas is a great guy. If you want to talk to him, find him, reach out, or let me know and I can connect you. For me at least, kind of moving along Europe here, it's great because it kind of gives you, well, I mean, it gives me insight and information, and it's not practical, tactical stuff like, oh, the Swiss market or the German market is different than the US for these reasons. Like, yeah, that's true, but it's the higher level themes and flows of information and how much stuff is similar and different and how people think about innovation. I think just getting exposed to new ideas and new markets and new ways of thinking helps me at least get smarter. So thanks for helping me get a little bit smarter.
Yeah, thanks for coming by.
All right, I'm Mike Del Prete. You've been listening to Context. If you want to check out more of my podcasts or research, a good place to start is my website, mikedp.com, and you can also sign up for my mailing list if you want. All right, thanks. Take care. Bye.